Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Ooh, later with Mo Kelly on KFI AM 640.
Earlier tonight, I was telling you how Stephen A. Smith fancies himself as a presidential candidate. But having nothing to do with him, you have to be a narcissist to even want to be president of the United States, leader of the free world, head of the federal government and the tens of thousands of employees, directing domestic policy, international policy, commander-in-chief, and all that it entails. You are a megalomaniac to think that you individually are up to that task. Some are, as in some are up to the task. But most definitely are not. But either way, you are definitely a narcissist to want the job, to think that you could even do the job in today's world. But that's just the person who wants the job. There's a conversation to be had as to how this country picks its leaders and the person for the job. It used to be, and I think Mark remembers this time, it used to be that senators were hamstrung running for president because they had, quote unquote, no executive experience, like governors did. Carter, governor. Reagan, governor. Clinton, governor. You had senators become president, but it was a tougher sell once upon a time. America demanded, once upon a time, executive experience. But that was a different America. But let me get back to Stephen A. Smith. There's no Stephen A. Smith flirting with a presidential run without a Donald Trump to precede him. I think Mark made that point, and it's accurate. For some reason, and I made the point, we don't respect competency, experience, or expertise anymore. Executive experience no longer matters at all. Charisma has always been important, but at least ever since Nixon and JFK faced off in that first televised debate, TV presence matters. No doubt. Absolutely. You got to look good on camera. But we're way beyond the tipping point now. Half of this president's cabinet are either former television hosts or commentators, or they've run their own television production company like Linda McMahon, and way too many people think that that's okay. It's not, and that's not a political statement. I just think we can do better than people tied to TV. The president is a former TV reality show host. Recognize the pattern. Here's Stephen A. Smith's public resume, and it is inarguable. After Smith attended the Fashion Institute of Technology for 1 year, Smith received a basketball scholarship to Winston-Salem State University. I'm not making any of this up. 1 year, Fashion Institute of Technology. Smith began his print media career with the Winston-Salem Journal, the Greensboro News and Record, and the New York Daily News. Then the Philadelphia Inquirer, NBA columnist, radio host, television commentator, podcast host, television host, registered independent. Those are his bona fides, or bona fides, as some people say. Bona fides, some other people say. Stephen A. Smith, as I said earlier, is more famous than I am. He is much more wealthy than I am. But his professional resume that I just read to you and his relevant experience is a little different than mine. In fact, I can say confidently, I said it before and I'll say it again, I have more applicable experience than he does. And if he were here on this show, yes, I would talk to him. I would tell him that to his face. And I'm here to tell you, even though I have more applicable experience, I'm in no way qualified. And nobody with a similar resume. Mark Rodder has a similar resume. And with all due respect, I don't think he would be,
I part my hair on the left, so I am qualified to be president.
Well, okay, well, with the exception of Mark Rodder, the rest of us are in no way qualified, especially those with a similar resume. We're not qualified to command our troops, handle classified intelligence, work with Congress, or put it another way, lead this nation. But we live in a time where competency doesn't have any value anymore, just personality. Stephen A. Smith, he's a personality. And believe it or not, being president is a real ass freaking job. Although we have collectively devalued the jobs that members of Congress do or the requirements for the people we elect, they actually do, folks in Congress, it does prepare someone to run a government, handle policy, and classified information. That's why there are these things such as the Armed Services Committee, the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. They matter greatly. Civics, something this country has been grossly derelict in teaching. If you paid attention, you would know that. But most of us as Americans do not. When you want to discuss the latest trades and prospects of the Lakers winning the championship, call Stephen A. Smith and ask what he thinks. That's his stock and trade. You don't call him to legitimize his wet dream of running for president like ABC News did. And yes, I know ABC, ESPN, same conglomerate of Disney. I get that. But ABC News was bending over to pick up, elevate, and legitimize Smith and his delusions of grandeur. Legacy media already struggling to remain relevant and be seen as credible. And here they were putting another carnival barker on the Sunday news asking about his presidential aspirations. That, again, makes this country seem like a joke. I know that sounds harsh, but it's the truth. Not just anyone can be president. That's not a controversial statement. There are consequences to this foolishness and unseriousness. Being loud, opinionated, controversial, and speaking one's mind are not presidential job qualifications. Being on TV isn't a presidential job qualification. Having a sports podcast is not a presidential job qualification. And the sooner America figures this out, the sooner we can go back to normality and not a moment before. We don't hire pilots. We don't hire doctors, lawyers, plumbers, welders, teachers, dentists, gardeners, prostitutes on personality. We do it on professional competency. So why in the world would we even consider choosing a leader of the free world on anything less? For KFI AM 640, I'm Mo Kelly. I wouldn't say that I know Will Smith. I know that I've met him. I met him and Jada Pinkett Smith when they were dating many, many years ago. And you get to see people disarmed. You get to see them. I got the sense that Will Smith is a decent person. I got the sense that Jada Pinkett Smith, then just Jada Pinkett, was a decent person. But you don't know. I always say you don't know these people. But I can say that when I was in the music business, it was during the height of Will Smith's career. And I know a little something about that time in music. And I want to end the show tonight talking about Will Smith. And I'm not going to stretch and reach and try to connect dots, which may not be there. Like I said, last segment, we talked about what seems to be a failed musical effort by Will Smith based on a true story. His new music project. I say fail because the majority of promotion and press for a new album, any new album, is done in anticipation of its first week of release, just like a movie. You have to have a great first weekend because it's diminishing returns from there. As you already know, Smith's project name, based on a true story, it bombed. Some will wrongly say that Smith is still canceled. No, he's never been canceled. That's reaching to connect dots to Chris Rock, which aren't there. Will Smith released a successful movie last year, Bad Boys Ride or Die, which grossed more than $400 million worldwide. It was a success by every measure. You can't say he was canceled. And his Chris Rock transgression would have had more impact on his movie career than anything. So this is, I think, about a really late middle-age crisis, I would wager. Smith has to be more than halfway to $1 billion. He's already won 4 Grammys. He's won a Best Actor Oscar. He's won a BAFTA for Best Actor. He's been nominated for an Emmy for his work with Cobra Kai. He's won a Golden Globe. He's won multiple MTV Video Music Awards and American Music Awards. If this were about reaching new heights or new accomplishments, let's say he's going after an EGOT. Well, we would have seen Smith chase a Tony Award. But instead, he's bending over, reaching down to pick up his music success of his past. For tweens, for teenagers, for 20-somethings, while he's staring age 57 square in the face. And I want to be clear here. It's his life. It's his time left with his life. It's his legacy. Everything he's gotten so far, he has definitely earned, and that includes the right to even fail if need be. But he hasn't earned the right to escape public review or critique. If he wanted to escape all that, he should have become a recluse like Jack Nicholson. But instead, he chose to put out a new album targeted at fans as much as 40 years younger than him. And fans get to review and critique art. Music is not like movies. Denzel Washington, he's 70 years old, and 20-somethings will still go to see him. 20-somethings won't do that for pop music stars. They will not. Music just doesn't have that age elasticity. It never has.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, you know, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
I just don't for the life of me understand why Smith seems to be, at this point, trying to chase his glory from the 1980s. Honestly, that's why I call it an extremely late midlife crisis, more like a two-thirds life crisis. Much has been made of his marriage to Jada Pinkett Smith and the various controversies which have swirled around it, from her entanglement, quote unquote, with son Jaden's friend August Alsina, to what I would call the very public emasculation of Smith with the public revelation. I just got to be honest, as a man, I don't know how I would have responded to that. If anything, that made Smith a more sympathetic figure to me. It was that. No man deserved that. Then again, no man deserved what he did to Chris Rock. And you can bet all of this is emotionally, at least. This is one dot I will connect. This is emotionally connected somehow, some way deep inside of Smith. All these things have to be connected somewhere. I'll go one step further. I believe his descent from the mountaintop of Hollywood will never be separate altogether from the moment he assaulted Chris Rock at the Oscars. I don't believe he makes this album if that moment didn't happen. I'll never believe he will fully ever get out from under that. There are some things you just can't undo. Whereas this music failure, and that's my word, I call it a failure of Smith, is probably far more disappointing to Smith himself than anyone else. I'm more curious what peace and happiness may look like for Smith in this stage of his career, where he's not the star, he's not the draw that he was 10 years ago in a cinematic sense, and not the music star he was some 35 years ago. Because if peace and happiness are in any way tied to one last gasp of superstardom, which is different from stardom, if this album is any indication, that may be no longer in reach. And if this is a mid to late life crisis for Will Smith, I wonder what that means for him as an artist, as a father, and as a man. For KFI AM 640, I'm Mo Kelly. For my final thought tonight, I previewed it in my tease, and I said, well, I wanted to talk about the Stop Oligarchy rallies, and I think that's what they're called. And I'm not saying this for effect, and it's weird when I ever mention anything politics, I'll get these messages from you, and y'all are crazy. You want to talk about stuff that had nothing to do with whatever I said. You want me to argue with you about stuff I didn't say or things you imagine. You must be drunk, high, or just not really paying attention, whatever it is. But it's just weird what you think you hear versus what I actually say. But I get really bothered, to get to the point, by the coverage of these Stop Oligarchy rallies. And I'm not sure exactly what they're called, but you know the ones I'm talking about, the ones with Senator Bernie Sanders and AOC, Congresswoman AOC. I think they're called that. I was doing a hit on Spectrum News on Monday, and I was asked what I thought about them. And I didn't know. They said right before I sat in the chair, say, hey, we also want to get your thoughts on this. So I didn't have a lot of time to prepare anything. I was just coming off the top of my head. But here's what I think about the Stop Oligarchy rallies. That's what I'll call them. There is what they actually are, and there is what they aren't. And I know that Democrats largely want to use these rallies, these protests, the sea of people, as some sort of evidence that the Democrats are on the verge of turning things around. And I am here to tell you, no, they're not. Others will argue that it shows that the rallies are at the start of this gigantic blue wave in 2026. No, they're not. The midterms are more than a year and a half away. Nothing happening today will be impactful 18 months from now. Nothing. Not the tariffs, not Doge firings, and definitely not any of these protests or rallies. Think of it like the stock market. Whatever the stock market numbers are like right now won't matter in 18 months. We'll have a completely different picture. We'll be in a completely different economic state. The rallies, other than making the disaffected feel better, momentarily at that, they're not impactful at all. Not short term or long term. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I like to tell the truth. They don't matter. That's what they're not. Here's what they are. They actually are. They are great fundraising tools for AOC, for Bernie Sanders, and the Democratic Party. They're great in the formulation of future outreach because, when you get information on these rallies, know when to show up and where to go, you're getting your name, your address, going to be used later for mass focus group marketing, seeing what messages resonate better than others. And it's also great for AOC individually. She's doing great fundraising. She's probably one of the largest fundraisers in the Democratic Party right now. And it's no secret that she, like her or not, is raising her national profile. She may be a candidate for New York governor. Don't know. She may be a candidate for senator because her name has been bandied about to challenge Chuck Schumer. Who knows? She could be a Democratic Party congressional leader, as in future Speaker of the House, if she stays in the House long term. All these things have been theorized, and there are arguments to make for all of them. But here's the really difficult truth. This is about then, not about now. And everything that AOC wants to do requires a national profile. That helps her down the road. All of these rallies help that. That helps her. It doesn't help you, not as a voter. It doesn't really even help the party outside of grassroots strategies. It's not going to tip any balance. It's not going to win any elections because there are no elections on the immediate horizon, but they are a balm for butthurt Democrats. And sometimes eating a gallon of ice cream is the best you can do to make the hurt go away. And I would liken these rallies, these protests, to the gallon of ice cream for a party wallowing in their sorrows. Bernie Sanders is not a potential candidate for president in 2028, and neither is AOC. These rallies have been more performative than they've been transformative. Bernie Sanders at Coachella, what are we talking about? That does not matter. There's no Coachella voting block, and California is not in danger of going red in a presidential election. See what I mean? That's more ice cream, make you feel better. The point of this is that we shouldn't confuse something impressive with something impactful. The rally crowds are no doubt impressive. You get 36,000 people out. That's impressive, but it's not impactful. Nothing happening in mid-2025 is going to tell us what's going to happen in late 2026. So Democrats, this is what I say to you. Eat your ice cream, sit on the couch, get sloppy, obese, fat, fart, do whatever you want. Nobody's listening. As for when 2026 rolls around, some of this might matter. That's next year, but not now. Not the anti-Trump protests, not the anti-oligarchy rallies, none of it. Your job is to show up in big numbers when it matters most. Like in November of 2024, when you didn't. That would have been election day and not some day in April when it doesn't matter at all. Here's the takeaway. Message, as they say. If the Democrats could, among other things, figure out the difference between showing up for a rally and showing up on election day, we wouldn't be having this conversation. For KFI AM 640, I'm Mo Kelly. And to close out this week, as far as final thoughts, on a tie tonight in the last night. And you may remember I said last night, and I'm quoting myself, which is kind of weird. Quote, Bernie Sanders is not a potential candidate for president in 2028, and honestly, neither is AOC. These rallies, the oligarchy rallies, Stop Oligarchy, have been more performative than transformative. Bernie Sanders at Coachella does not matter. There is no Coachella voting bloc in California, is not in danger of going red in the presidential election, close quote. And the universe is trying to tell me I'm wrong. But I also said this, quote, the turnout is great for AOC individually. She's doing great fundraising. It's no secret that AOC, like her or not, is raising her national profile. She may be a candidate for New York governor. She could be a Democratic Party congressional leader, as in future Speaker of the House, if she stays in the House long term. But all that requires a national profile. All of this, these rallies help that. All of this help her. Close quote. Now, here's a sample of some of the headlines just since I said that last night. This is all within the past 23 hours. AOC draws 3-mile-long line for rally in California's Trump country. That's from the San Francisco Gate. Sanders and Ocasio-Cortez electrified Democrats who want to fight Trump. That's the New York Times today. President AOC, question mark. Analysts predict she's a top 2028 contender. That's Newsweek, and that's pointing towards Nate Silver and his prediction. The crowds tell the story. Sanders, AOC get massive draw at a rally in red state. That's MSNBC. Congresswoman AOC is 35 years old. She fulfills the eligibility requirements to become president. In normal times, nobody would even humor such a conversation. I'm not talking about becoming president. I'm just talking about becoming the party nominee. But to dovetail on what I was saying last night, those Stop the Oligarchs rallies were not about the people. They weren't about the issues. They were about marketing and conducting a focus group for the party, trying to see what messages resonated with the masses. And I have to give credit where credit is due. Tawala Sharp and I and our video technical director, Daniel, were all talking about this before the show. And Tawala had the correct formulation. There is no reason for Bernie Sanders and AOC to go out on any quote-unquote concert tour, because that's what it was. It was a concert tour, which included stopping by an actual concert in the form of Coachella. And because of that, Tawala thinks, I don't know, but this is what Tawala thinks. He thinks that Bernie is gearing up for one last run. Mind you, he'd be 86 when the next election rolls around. But Tawala thinks Bernie's of the opinion that he and only he can save the Democrats, which would be weird because he's only a Democrat when he runs for president. He's an independent any other time, including right now at this moment, he's an independent. Although we can't predict what will happen in 2028. And far be it from me to tell the Democrats what they need to do to get right with America, but I will say this. If either Senator Bernie Sanders or Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is the Democratic Party's nominee for president, the Democrats are going to get creamed. Are you hearing me, Democrats? You are going to get creamed. Creamed in an all-time sort of beatdown way. I know what Bernie is probably thinking. Bernie's probably thinking, you tried Hillary, she lost. You tried Kamala, she lost. Bernie probably thinks he's the only one who can save the party and has been overlooked for the past 9 years or so. Democrats, your nominee must be someone who can win, not someone a wing of your party happens to like a lot. And I slow down because I need you to hear me. Those are very different things. You can't piss off 20% of your own party with someone who is really, really liked by only 40% of your party and would struggle to pull moderates or Reagan Democrats. The party as a whole would not unite behind Bernie, ever. He's not even a Democrat. They've tried it before, and even if they try it again, the party will not unite behind him. He's an independent and just caucuses with the party. Well, what does that mean, Mo? I'm glad you asked. It means he has never embraced the party or its platform, except for the benefit the party affords when running for president. Meaning Bernie would get to be a part of the debates. He would get access to the party resources. He would have access to the voter rolls. But the party would not unite behind Bernie Sanders, and the party would not unite behind AOC because she is perceived as too far left. not by conservatives, by even Democrats and liberals. She's too left for the totality of the party. If the Democrats think that it can't get any worse, mess around and put either Bernie or AOC at the top of the ticket. And I mean every word of that. For KFI AM 640, I'm Mo Kelly.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.